Hey everybody, welcome to Pop Culture Philosophers. It's time for a Comics Revisited. Today we're talking about Miles Morales, Spider-Man. That's right everybody, welcome to Pop Culture Philosophers, Comics Revisited. Today we're going to be talking about Miles Morales, Spider-Man. All the Ultimate Adventures, basically. I'm Rockin' Robbie Billups. This is...
who am I again?
Brooks the Magnificent. In fact, Ultimate Brooks.
Oh, right.
Ultimate Brooks.
Yeah, that's right.
Right here. Yes. Anyway, we're going to be talking about Miles...
my memory loss was the transition to the Ultimate Universe.
Yes. We're going to be talking about Miles Morales, Spider-Man, because there's that new Spider-Man movie out, Into the Spider-Verse, right? Miles Morales making his cinematic debut, even if it's in an animated feature. This movie looks really good. I'm very excited to see it. Very, very excited. I'm sure
it looked like a lot of fun.
It doesn't. I'm sure we're going to be doing a movie review for it, probably.
You think?
So definitely maybe something like that. Miles Morales was created by Brian Michael Bendis and artist Sara Pichelli. He first appeared in Ultimate Fallout number 4, published in August 2011. So Miles is a recently introduced character into the Marvel Universe, and he's taken the Marvel Universe by storm. I love this character, Brooks. I think Miles is amazing. He's got a great costume. He's got one of the coolest Spider-Man costumes. Every other Spider-Man...
Like all it is really is inverting the colors on the Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Like the black webs are red and the part that's red is black.
Yeah, but it works so well. You know, every other person who's Spider-Man winds up with a cooler costume than Peter Parker.
Yeah.
But I love the character. Really right in line with what Stan Lee and Steve Ditko was doing back in the early days with Peter Parker. When the Ultimate books first started, back in what, like 99, 2000, something like that.
Yeah, it was like 2000.
It was back in that day, right? Brian Michael Bendis, Mark Bagley, they basically relaunched, redid, reinvented, reinvigorated Spider-Man for a new generation. And at the time, let's be honest, Brooks, Spider-Man comic books sucked in the late 90s, early 2000s.
There's a lot of...
There's a lot of just...
The Clone Saga kind of like really...
Never got over that.
Yeah.
Never got over that. So Bendis and Bagley, they came in and they really did this great story. I still think that the Ultimate Spider-Man book by Bendis and Bagley is one of the best superhero comic books out there. That comic book ran on and on for a while. The Ultimate Universe lost a lot of steam, right? And the only successful book was Spider-Man. But at this time, they killed Peter Parker. They were trying to do all this different stuff they could. They brought in Galactus. They killed Peter Parker. They kept doing all this different stuff, and there was a new Spider-Man. Apparently, Miles Morales is somewhat influenced by Donald Glover's ambition to play Spider-Man in a movie or something one day. And Brian Michael Bendis said, why the hell not? And came up with this character, a great character. What are your thoughts on Miles Morales as a character? How does he stand? What are we, like 7 years later? Like, how do you feel about Miles?
Well... I always liked Miles. He was a very real, character. Like you can see a kid, he doesn't act like somebody's idea of what a kid acts like,
Yeah.
He seems more realistic. He's not like super good, but he does kind of tend to keep himself in line. He's kind of disciplined, but but at the same time, he's willing to go off the rails every once in a while.
He's questioning. He's a questioning kid.
Especially early on when he was he was supposed to be 13 years old when he started out.
13 when he started.
He was in the original Stan Lee Ditko Spider-Man. How old was Peter Parker?
I think he was 15.
Yeah, that's what I think. I think he was a little older.
Yeah, and I think Peter was 15 in the beginning of Ultimate Spider-Man. Bendis made him younger, but I think he intentionally did that so he could have him grow.
Yeah, it's kind of because at first, when he first gets the powers, he doesn't do anything with them until the original Spider-Man.
Yeah, and then they in the story they have that whole year later thing at that point where he quits being Spider-Man. Miles is a fantastic character. I love him. I think the costume's super cool, and like you were saying, he comes across as a very realistic kid, and this is something we got to credit to creator Brian Michael Bendis. The dialogue, the way he thinks, his thought process. Everything about the character, and he's very Spider-Man. He's got this idea of power and responsibility, but some aspects of it get inverted. Instead of feeling responsible for his uncle's death because he didn't stop the bad guy, he feels responsible for his uncle's death because he's a bad guy and he was trying to fight him to stop him.
He's not as fueled by tragedy as Peter Parker was, really.
Not as fueled by tragedy at first, but the tragedy starts, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It really starts, and it starts hitting hard. So the first story is basically the origin story, and it basically introduces the Prowler, his uncle, Aaron Davis. He's the Prowler. That story, which ends up with his uncle dying while they're having their final confrontation on this rooftop, that also involves an ultimate take on Scorpion, where he's this like Mexican badass gangster,
drug lord.
Yeah, drug lord. Like
yeah,
coming
he
in.
apparently has some kind of powers too.
Yeah, because he's like unstoppable.
Yeah, he's got
hurt.
Extra durability or healing factor.
And he's got this like stinger. It's like a chain with a hook on it. Yeah, something like that. So that story.
Get over here.
That story leans in a little bit to then Fury comes in and they give him the costume. Spider-Woman's involved. Then the Spider-Man crossover happened where after they said they never would do it, they brought in the 616 Amazing Spider-Man into the Ultimate Universe to meet Miles Morales, to see Aunt May, to see Gwen, all that stuff. Then they crossed over in all the jumbled mess that the Ultimates was going through. When Captain America was president and the country was torn apart, divided we fall, united we stand. He throws in that Ultimates. He briefly joins the Ultimates.
Yeah, actually, there was the last Ultimates team was basically
him.
Yeah, his team
and
was like
crew.
Cloak and Dagger and
absolutely
Bombshell.
After that, one of the highlights of the run in my particular opinion is the Venom War story, with the tragedy where his mother dies at the end of that story. Then that goes into this whole stuff. He quits being Spider-Man for a year, comes back, Cloak and Dagger's going on. They do this really interesting Roxxon story. Was it Bombshells involved? Spider-Woman? That's where that all-new Ultimates team kind of comes from. The all-new Ultimates book wasn't my favorite, but I love all these issues where Cloak and... This is the most interesting most interested I've ever been in Cloak and Dagger, is in this comic book. I think they really did a good job. Then Cataclysm happened. Like we were saying, the Ultimate books were starting to tank. Ultimatum into...
Ultimatum was like the first nail in the coffin.
Ultimatum into Reed being a villain, right? The Ultimate Doom story or whatever. Into the death of Spider-Man. Into Divided We Fall, United We Stand, Captain America's president, and Cataclysm happens. And then it just keeps going. They relaunch after Cataclysm to a 12-issue series. They bring back Peter Parker. They bring back Norman Osborn, the ultimate versions of the characters. And it wraps up really quickly when Miles single-handedly, off-panel, in between a page, takes out Dr. Doom, who we don't even know why he's still alive. Because last we saw, didn't Thing crush his head at the end of like Avengers 3 or something?
Yeah,
man, something like that.
You know,
the Ultimate books got so.
I'm sure they
jumbled.
brought him. I remember they brought him back, but I didn't read the story in which he was brought back.
Anyway, the Ultimate books got so jumbled and they started selling so poorly. But Ultimate Spider-Man was always that highlight all the way through it. Brian Michael Bendis always wrote it. Even when it switched over to Miles, it was an amazing book. It stayed an amazing book. Basically, what we're talking about today is the ultimate run of Miles before he comes over into the classic 616 Marvel Universe where he resides today. That happened in Secret Wars because basically, if that's the only Ultimate books that's going to sell, we're going to cancel the Ultimate line and bring that character and fold him into our continuity, and that's what happened. Brooks, out of these stories, what are your reactions? What are your favorite moments? What are some standouts to you? What do you really like in this stuff?
I liked his fight with the Goblin, even though it did feel kind of like, you know, like when him and Peter, like the second time they confront him. Yeah. It feels like they kind of overpower him a little bit. Yeah. And there was like, you know, he just keeps getting back up and like it's like, come on, dude. Yeah. Like, he does that 5 times. Towards the end of this run, Norman Osborn, who dies apparently after he is responsible for the death of Peter Parker in the Ultimate Universe, they both come back, kind of unexplained. Yeah. Like Norman Osborn apparently is just like, never died. Apparently they are immortal. Yeah, they're just immortal. Well, Peter just woke up on a table. We don't even know if he's. Yeah, it's like it didn't really resolve. He runs off with Mary Jane, and it's just so odd and weird. Yeah. It's just a little weird thing. It feels like at the end there. It was kind of unnecessary to bring Peter back. I know, because Miles was standing on his own as such a strong character, and I feel like towards the end, he just wanted to give him a happy ending. I guess. I guess so, but at the end, it kind of pulls the focus away from Miles just a little bit. But it also does feel like it's Bendis realizing that the Ultimate books are about to wrap up, and he wants to tie the loose ends together. You know, something like that. Aside from that, I really thought that one of the weaker parts was the divided we fall, united we stand bit in it, just because it has to cross over into all this craziness that was going on over in Ultimates. I don't even remember what was going on, but basically with the Ultimates is that Mark Millar and Brian Hitch did those first 2 series. That's all that's really, really good. Ultimate 3 is kind of not good in my opinion. Then they did Ultimate Avengers. Those were pretty good. When Mark Millar came back, they introduced Blade. They introduced that new version of the Hulk. They had some interesting things going on in there, but it wasn't like the magic of the first one. And at this point, I don't know. I think it was either Jonathan Hickman did a decent run, but it like
was really shorter than Sam Humphries. There was a lot of craziness going on. They had like mutants were like in concentration camps, and like someone like had destroyed Washington.
A whole uprising, and Kitty Pryde becomes like the mutant.
It totally hijacks the direction of the story. What do you think?
Well, I don't think it was that bad.
Okay.
But I'm familiar with that story.
Well, let's say
I haven't read it in a long time, but
let's say you're reading this stuff, Brooks, and you didn't never read any of that stuff.
Yeah, if you weren't following Ultimates, you probably wouldn't be as interested.
I mean, they do a good job, at least where they have the maps.
Yeah,
but show you what's going on.
It's kind of, I like seeing Ultimate Cap in there.
I do, absolutely. By the way, these are the books. Basically, everything we're talking about is covered in this. This is book 1. It's Miles Morales, The Ultimate Spider-Man Complete Collection, book 1. Book 2. Book 3. This leads you right up into when he joins the 616 after Secret Wars. So, fantastic stuff. If you want to read Miles, if you like the movie, you want to read them, this is what you got to read. Links down below. You can help support PCP. Who's CPP? You can help support PCP and get it at a great price.
The ultimate PCP.
So at the end of the Venom story, they kill his mother, Rio, right? That maybe when they bring him back, Molecule Man brings his mother back as well. And I think it's maybe like Bendis realizing like, I ain't got to put so much on this kid. Like his uncle just died. I think that's enough. Now you're going to kill his mom.
And we have like tragedy Peter Parker Spider-Man already. So
yeah, but man, I'll tell you what.
It'd be different for Miles to be like less,
Let's talk about
mopey.
Miles. Let's talk about Miles. Let's talk about his arc. Because Miles, like, what does Miles learn? Right? Because Miles starts off a very bright kid. He gets into this academy, Brooklyn Visions Academy or something like that.
Some fancy pants.
He wins a lottery to get there, so he's already he's got Peter Parker's guilt. He's already feeling that guilt in the very opening scenes of the book when he's guilty that he won the lottery. He's like, why do I get to go to this school? These other kids didn't make it in, and his parents are like, oh, that's just something to go. He has this whole thing with his dad. That's what the heart of everything in Miles Morales Spider-Man and the Ultimate run is this relationship with his dad, Jefferson. Like, this relationship is the arc. To me, it is the growth in the book. It is definitely the book about a father and a son. That's why in the trailer...
And the bond with his uncle, too, really.
Yeah, but that's because...
I wish they had gone more into it, because they did show, like, a flashback of him, a panel or something of him remembering his uncle, like hanging out with his uncle, actually. Like, like he goes over to his uncle's house and, like, he shows him a Kung Fu movie, like a Bruce Lee movie. He's like, don't tell your dad.
Yeah, remember you were doing homework. Yeah, but that's the thing is, because he doesn't have a connection with his dad at the beginning of the book. Really. Yeah. He doesn't see things like his dad. Him and his dad don't really share a lot of the same beliefs and values or even interests and things like that. And so his dad's just kind of pushing him, but his dad's also just kind of against a lot of the stuff that he's into, like superheroes and stuff like that, right? And so his uncle is that replacement, right? And then that gets messed up. And then he gets disenfranchised once again by his dad by finding out his dad's got this shady past. Yeah. Then he finds out his dad's got this other secret past where he was actually an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. undercover in the Kingpin organization on orders by Nick Fury.
I love the Kingpin stuff.
That stuff is really good.
That Drew Kingpin was awesome.
David Marquez.
He's just like huge hulking.
Oh, man. It looks so good in those eyes that just peer out of the darkness. Oh, my goodness.
Like he's eating the steak.
Yes. So Miles' dad is like kind of how Aunt May was in the early Peter Parker days. He's not for superheroes. He's not down with Spider-Man. Rio, Miles' mother, right before she dies at the hands of some friendly fire from a cop during the Venom stuff. When that happens, she figures out that it's Miles. She said, "Don't tell your dad." Miles' dad finds out because during the Galactus invasion, where the Galactus from 616 came in and absorbed the Galactus swarm from the Ultimate Universe and became the Ultimate Galactus.
Like, how did that happen though? Like Galactus can just walk to just go to other worlds? Did he get like sucked into something?
It was because of the Age of Ultron and the broke time and they broke reality, remember? Okay. And it was going to be that big of a deal.
I've forgotten all about Age of Ultron.
Yeah, it was one of those things. Age of Ultron, both the comic book and the movie, are probably best left forgot, I think.
I think I like the movie.
Oh man,
I thought the story was pretty good too.
It
wasn't a bad like event comic. It just wasn't as good as some of the ones that came before.
The time travel aspect's weird. Like Wolverine's going to try to go back and kill himself. Just like, I don't know.
Yeah, I think the ending Usually it's the endings in the event comics that let you down.
And Bendis wrote Age of Ultron, and Bendis gets a lot of flack nowadays of not being quite the writer that a lot of people think he is. But no, he is. This Miles Morales book never, ever let up. Now, not every book that he does is exceptional.
Yeah, but he's never anything that I hated.
Ultimate Spider-Man has always been exceptional for me.
Yeah.
And, like, Miles has always
That's hard to do, like... He's been on that book since the beginning. It was the first Ultimate book ever made, too.
It introduced the Ultimate Universe, man. It was Spider-Man, and it was Bendis and Bagley, and then Bendis and Pichelli. So let's talk about the artist real quick. Oh, real quick, though, do you have another thought, any final thoughts about Jefferson? And because once Jefferson finds out, because when the Galactus, we never finished this, when the Galactus thing happens, Miles just freaks out, and he goes to make sure his dad's okay. He's in costume, and he just pulls off his mask. He doesn't even care. His dad freaks out, and he's like, you killed your mother. And he just dips out and abandons his kid for like a while.
Yeah.
And he's living alone in an apartment, apparently, because he's not at the academy either during that time. Then his dad comes back. They have this nice little heart-to-heart. And now the relationship is something that's really good in the comic books right now. Saladin Ahmed's about to launch a new Miles book. In fact, I think that may have already happened. We're recording this a little earlier. Anyway, really cool stuff. Any thoughts about that relationship with Jefferson, his father?
Well, it's like at first he's he's kind of typical dad. He doesn't always seem to, they don't seem, it's like they don't see eye to eye, but they're not clashing either.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, and it changes a lot, like later on when you learn like about his past and stuff.
Yeah.
And you start to understand more like why he was so against his own brother and why he didn't want his kid to be around his uncle. And
why he hates superheroes.
Yeah.
And why he
dislikes superhumans and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And all that cool stuff. So let's talk about the artist real quick. It starts off with Sara Pichelli. She helped co-create the character Miles Morales. David Marquez does the majority of these books, though. And I really prefer his artwork to Sara Pichelli's. Sara Pichelli's the one that's been doing Fantastic Four. But it's been a little rushed, a little sloppy. This last issue, for instance, she wasn't on every single page. I think she's being replaced on the book because of that. But her artwork in the Miles book is really, really solid, really clean. She also did the Spider-Man crossover and a few others. I think she did the Venom story as well. David Marquez pretty much does everything else, though. There's a couple of issues by Chris Samney and a couple of issues by Pepe Larraz, but it's mostly Marquez and a little bit of Pichelli. What do you think about the artwork? I think it's clean.
Yeah, I like it. I like the work on this.
It's clean. It keeps a consistent visual look throughout, even when it switches through the artist.
Like all the characters look the same.
Yeah, they look the same. The layout is the same. Obviously, Bendis, I think, has a lot to do with panel composition in his books. The nice double-page spreads, really interesting, innovative ways to read through the page. That's something that Bendis does all the time, guided by the lettering.
I don't know, man. Like I hate doing this.
Oh, I hate turning the page. Like that was the one where there was
it was a Kingpin. Like it was.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a cool,
As cool as that was, I hate.
This is like I had to do
that.
This.
Is so
and
life.
Then like it's like pages,
Yeah,
that's
so.
And the next page was another one.
Oh, I hate that. You're right. Yeah, you're right. I remember that. That's a little obnoxious.
Yeah.
Aside from that, everything else about the artwork, and in that story, Marquez's artwork gets grittier.
Yeah.
And then you got Justin Ponser on the coloring. Justin Ponser is an amazing colorist. I'm pretty sure he colored the majority of the issues. He may not have colored every single one though. Justin Ponser. I love the coloring. It's luscious. It's beautiful. What do you think about the coloring? This cat's still coloring comic books today, thankfully. Yeah, Justin Ponser. There's a couple other color artists there. No, that's just Justin Ponser. Oh, Paul Mounts is on there a little bit. Yeah. Do you like the coloring in the book?
Yeah, I think it's good. It keeps the brightness and kind of lightness of Spider-Man, but it does have that kind of...
Look at that.
A lot of it's very dark at the same time.
It's very dark, and then when it pops, it needs to pop. Like right there where the Goblin's getting shocked. Cloak and Dagger, because of the coloring, looks so amazing in this book.
Cloak and Dagger look really cool in this.
Cloak and Dagger look amazing. So freaking cool. So the artwork is solid. It's spot on. It's consistent all the way through. The character of Miles is consistent. We've already talked about his parents. His mother's a very nice, nurturing character. Mm-hmm. His dad, this is the one he has the most conflict with, but it's the most fulfilling drama to me in this whole story. Even when he has issues with like Kate Bishop, because he winds up dating Ultimate Kate Bishop, who was raised Hydra. So her family's like Hydra, and there's some crazy stuff that happens there. So let's talk about the other people around Miles' life. Obviously, Gwen Stacy and Mary Jane reappear in this series. They kind of become supporters of Miles, and that's really cool. Maria Hill is a detective. She figures out very early on that Miles is Spider-Man, and she's always there to kind of like help him out and point him in the right direction. And at the end there, she's there, you know, when he needs it most. But number one, Genki. Genki Lee is the best non-superpowered costumed superhero sidekick out there. I love Genki so much. Ned Leeds is from the new Spider-Man Homecoming movie is totally based on Genki. Yeah. Genki is great. He's charming. He's ridiculous. He's obnoxious. He's exactly what he should be. He provides a nice comic relief to the very straight-edgedness of Miles and this guilt-ridden Miles that we get at times. Miles goes through some really dark times in this book.
You can see why they're so close, like because they kind of work off of each other.
Oh, it's totally a Harry and Ron thing.
Yeah,
is it not?
Weasley or maybe you and me.
Or you and me. Yeah. Well, yeah. Hey, no, but I love it. So you're Genki.
What? No, I want to be. I just want to be the opposite of whatever you say I am.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. What do you think about the relationship, that friendship, man? That character.
I liked it. It was, you know, you could believe it, and
how important
Genki's especially the like when he quits for a year.
Yeah,
and he gets pissed at him.
Yeah,
and like his girlfriend's like, you know, he's always had a thing for you. He's like.
Yeah, there's a lot of little
she's
things
not
like
the only
that.
one that's brought that up. Like people are always saying like I think his dad said, his dad said that his mom thought that they were gay for a while.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, because of the way the humor is set up in the book too, like because they're trying to prevent anybody from figuring out that Miles. And I love how Miles the whole time they're trying to prevent. They live in this,
which involves like them locking themselves into
their dorm room, right? So they're at this academy for like super smart kids, and they have a dormitory. They have another roommate, Judge. So that's the other character. I love Judge the whole time. He's just like, "What's going on? Let me know." Then one day he just slips like, "You guys suck. I'm gonna get a different roommate." But then he shows back up at the end and helps them out. So that's a really cool character. I love that relationship there. But like, in order to cover up that Miles is Spider-Man, they have to like lock the door. No lock doors. They come in. And like Miles is like, "What, man? I'm not dressed." And Genki's just sitting there. Like, there's all kinds of like little situations like that. Very Three's Company type situations.
If Miles is like Jack Tripper, I guess.
Yeah, Jack Tripper. Moving on through toward the end of the series where they start introducing the new Ultimates. Bombshell, interesting character, really cool stuff. So, a holdover from the Peter Parker Ultimate Spider-Man days.
Yeah, that's a story I never.
That middle part right there.
Yeah, I missed a lot of the.
It was when they relaunched after Cataclysm, right?
Yeah.
When they relaunched after Cataclysm, it was when they brought in Bombshell. The Cloak and Dagger, like we were talking about, amazing. They look cool. The story is cool. Tandy and Ty have never been sleeker, cooler, just more empathetic and just cool characters than in this. And Spider-Woman really fleshes out that character.
Yeah.
I think that's cool. The ultimate version of Spider-Woman is Jessica Drew, and she's a clone of Peter Parker. Really interesting stuff. I like that whole vibe. I like the Roxon story. They have the leader in there, and Mr. Sinister is the brain trust. Really interesting. There, like a descendant of Arnim Zola is one of them.
Arnim Zola the Fourth or something.
But then it does end in this whole meshed up Doom story that happens really quick. And it's Goat Leg Doom, it's Ultimate Doom, and I think Bendis was like, I just want to deal with Doom one more time, because they couldn't. That's one thing they didn't ever get right in the Ultimate books was Doctor Doom.
Yeah,
they never could quite get it. Not Bendis couldn't get it right.
The first
Ellis couldn't get it right.
The first
one's
appearance
okay.
I thought was all right. Like,
that's the Ellis stuff.
But yeah, they never.
And he's trying to build that community out in Liberia. Like that is a little bit better, but then people just immediately hated the Goat Legs, and they hated the idea that the armor was actually him. Like he mutated into that, right? So I don't know. So you know, what do you? If someone asked you what is the point of Miles Morales Spider-Man? What is the point of this book? Is it about living up to legacy? Is it about living up to expectations, whether they're society's, your parents, your friends, or your own? Is it about dealing with guilt and loss and tragedy? Is it about stepping up and stepping up for the little guy no matter what it takes? What does it represent to you? Because to me, it represents all these things in many different ways. It represents to the truest sense of what Ditko and Lee were doing on Amazing Spider-Man back in the 60s. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it was a return to the to the original Spider-Man kind of in a way.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like try and tell more stories like they would back in the day. You know, with a teenager and the kind of problems he has to go through. You know,
Yeah.
Something that younger readers can relate to.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is definitely something that's a lot more inclusive than a lot of other comic books are, especially to kids, because this is definitely features kids in a very realistic way. It doesn't like speak down to them. These kids their voices ring true. The personalities are there. The atmosphere, the everything around it, the setting, it's all there. It's set in a school. Miss Marvel kind of has the same like Lee Ditko vibe to me. Have you read the Kamala Khan Miss Marvel stuff?
I haven't read any of that.
It feels a lot like this. It's the same thing, like a young kid, not really respected, she's living in high school, dealing with family stuff, being an outcast, like then all of a sudden getting powers. And she's also a big superhero fan. And so you should read the Miss Marvel stuff. We should do that one day for Comics Revisited. But this has been Comics Revisited for Miles Morales. Like I said, we got links down below for these 3 books. You can get the entire Ultimate story. He is now still in the Marvel Universe. New series going on by Saladin Ahmed. Very excited about that one. Miles is a great character. I love it. Overall, I would highly recommend this story. I would encourage you to read this book if you never have. A very vibrant character, very cool, but a lot of pathos.
Yeah,
a lot of
Spider-Man.
pathos. So it's a lot of like just soul-crushing, like just drama.
Yeah.
A lot of realness though, and a lot of humor, and a lot of fun action. All the artwork's great. The action scenes are great. It's all the choreography, if you could call it that, is amazing. Final thoughts. What would you say if you're going to recommend it to someone?
Well, yeah, I think if you want to know like about like Miles Morales, like how it got started. You know, this is what you should read. I don't know how much of it holds up in the current continuity, though.
Yeah, once they brought him over into 616, some things, I think it's just...
Yeah, it's like there's certain things there, like, you know, he still has the same family. I guess he's still going to the same school.
Yeah,
Genki's
Genki's
there. Same
there.
best friend, yeah.
Yeah. The origins just obviously got to be tweaked a little bit.
I mean, still, even if, you know, it's not in the continuity, it's still worth reading, I think.
It's a great story.
It's a good, I guess a good way of them showing this character, you know.
Yeah, it's a
good introduction.
It's a great introduction to the character and a great evolution of the superhero. So thank you guys so much for checking out the video. Next week, be sure to join us here on Comics Revisited. We will be closing out the year, taking a look at the very first issue of What If. What If #1 next week on Comics Revisited with me and Brooks. That's right, I'm Rockin' Robbie Billups. This is
Brooks
the Magnificent. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please do like, share, and subscribe. And check us out over at Twitter at The PCP Show. And you can follow me personally over at Twitter at The Rockin' Robbie. And yeah, if you at me, I'll at you. Let's do it, guys. Let's talk about comics, movies, and more. Subscribe. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We've already done everything except for one thing. You want to do it?
The umbrella thing?
Yeah.
Umbrellas.
Umbrellas. Umbrellas.